Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
So thrilled to have on the show an incredible songwriter, composer. He does everything. He conducts orchestras. Steve Dorff, it's good to have you on the show.
Good to be here. Thanks, Eric.
You know, I've been wanting to bring you on for a long time, but it seems like, you know, if anything, since moving here to Nashville 4 years ago, Steve, your career keeps getting bigger. How does that happen?
I've been asking myself that every day. I don't know about bigger. It has gotten busier, which has been fun. When I moved here, I thought, well, it's gonna, like the laid-back lifestyle of Tennessee compared to Los Angeles,
right.
it's going to be a little bit more laid-back, which I was looking forward to. And I have so many friends here from the music business, having come here to work for 30 years, that that was great. And then thinking, okay, well, the television and the film thing is kind of a out of sight, out of mind thing anyway in Los Angeles. So by coming here, I thought, all right, I'm going to get back to writing songs, which is what got me to the dance in the first place.
Definitely.
But yeah, lately in the last 2.5 years, I'm working on my, I'm about ready to start my 7th film project in January.
Well, and I've got to bring this up too. You know, you've already had, you know, 2 films that you've scored released this year, one of which features your son also.
Right, first time I've ever we've ever been in the same.
Is that actually allowed in the universe, to where it's like where you're, you know, it's like you have the two Dorffs in one project?
It's been very unique because he's been making movies for 25 years, and I've been scoring movies for 30 years, and we've never done the same project.
Right, and this was a Western one.
Yeah, it's a Western. It's called Dead Man's Hand, and it's very cool. It's got Jack Kilmer, who's Val Kilmer's son, and Cole Hauser, and a bunch of the guys from Yellowstone. So it's and it's trending very well. It's doing very well internationally. People, you know, people in foreign countries love the American Western genre, and it was fun for me because I hadn't done a Western in a long time, so it was really fun for me.
And then you had the opposite come out in August.
Yeah, The Furry Fortune, which is a kid's movie. It's about a dog that sheds money, and that was fun. I haven't done many kids movies, so that was, it's more comedic in nature, the tone of the music, and so yeah, the versatility of some of the projects I've gotten to work on in my career is really what I think is the signature for the arc of my career.
Well, you know, I was going to bring this up too, Steve, to where some of our viewers may not realize that, you know, you're such an incredible songwriter, and you're in the Songwriters Hall of Fame since 2018, to where you're kind of able to move between all these different genres pretty easily. And in fact, you're working on 2 Christmas movies coming out this year.
I am. My last 3 months have been nothing but sleigh bells, and I think I'm going to pass on Christmas this year.
You kind of lived it early.
Yeah, I've had it for the whole summer. Has been Christmas. So.
Well, you know, and I've got to bring this up too, to where, you know, with all of your catalog of songs, we were talking about this before we came in studio, you've had over 400 artists record your songs. And so you've had hit songs by, you know, Whiney Houston, by Willie Nelson, Dolly, Garth Brooks, Barbra Streisand. I mean, it's like just all over the gambit. Yeah. And then also, you've had the theme songs for major TV shows like Growing Pains.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. I sometimes, you know, I forget about, I don't think about it all the time. I'm just pretty much, you know, what am I going to do today or tomorrow or next week? And so when people bring up a movie like Curly Sue, which was John Hughes' last movie that I got to do, and I got to do the end title song with Ringo Starr, and I go, wow, you know, it just seems like so long ago, and yet when I start thinking about it, it seems like yesterday. And that was the reason to write the book, because so many people would ask me, you know, how did this happen? How was it working with Celine Dion? How was it working with Tom Jones? How was it working with Barbara? You know, and it's just, you know, so I had to really sit down for about 10 months, and I was asked to write a book. And I told the lady, the lady who asked me to, she was a literary agent. I said, I have enough problems writing a 3.5-minute song. I don't know how I'm going to write a book. And but she got me a book deal, and I did, and it was a very cathartic, very, very important process for me. I found as I was doing it, and once it came out. Because it got me to really think about all the little things that went on to connect the dots, and to and how serendipitous this business really is. How being in the right place at the right time is sometimes everything. You know?
Well, you know, and it's so interesting with your book too. I wrote that one too, A Life in Songwriting from Willie to Whitney. And you know, I was thinking about this because I remember when the book came out, and I know how well it's been received. And at some point, after living here in Nashville for 4 years, I think you're going to have to update the book. You know, down the road, there's going to have to be, you know, either that or a second book totally, because of everything that you continue to accomplish, even with musicals.
Yeah.
You know, and things like that you're delving into now. It seems like, you know, you're increasing your musical bandwidth. You and I bumped into each other a month or so ago. At the Reinventing Elvis, when you and your fiance were there, and it reminded me when you did the music for the Elvis miniseries.
I did, yeah. And see, I had totally forgotten about that. I really had. And but watching that film, I said, wait a minute, how, you know, I know all this stuff because I did the 4-hour miniseries back in, I can't even remember what year it was. And it won 3 Emmys, and it was for CBS. And I remember it being a great story, how I got that project, because I thought I was all wrong for it. When my agent called me to say, you have a meeting with the director-producer of this Elvis miniseries. And his name was Jim Sadwith, who had also written the Sinatra miniseries, which won all kinds of awards. And so I said, I took the meeting, and it came down to 3 of us. There were 3 composers that it came down to. And I thought, I've got no shot at this. And so I took the meeting, and the first question he asked me was, he said, well, are you a big Elvis fan? I said, not really. I said, you know, my sister was, who was 9 years older than me. But you know, I was into the British invasion. You know, Elvis with all that rockabilly stuff. You know, and I thought that was it. You know, and he said, okay. He said, well, great, thanks for coming in. And I left, and I'm trying to remember who I was. It came down to me and the drummer of the Police.
Oh, Stuart Copeland.
Stuart Copeland. And I thought, well, Copeland's going to get this. And I went to lunch, and my agent called, and she said, I've got some good news and some bad news. I said, what's the good news? And she said, you got the Elvis project. I said, you're kidding. I said, what's the bad news? She said, you got the Elvis project. Because you need to deliver the first 2 hours in 10 days.
Oh my gosh.
And it was quite, so I really went to school on the whole rockabilly and the period. I did nothing but listen to that stuff, you know, Jerry Reed and Roy Orbison and Jerry Lee Lewis and of course Elvis. I listened to that stuff for the next, you know, 48 hours straight, and then started writing the score. And so,
well, you know, and not to embarrass you too, but I mean, 40 BMI awards, 20 top 10 hits, 12 #1 hits, and you know, you you've gotten Lifetime Achievement Awards, all these things going on. And like we talked about in the beginning of the interview, it seems like things keep propelling you forward. And we were talking before we came in studio to where you're self-taught. I mean, you started writing songs in your head as a young child,
Yeah.
but actually started putting things to paper when you were around 13.
Yeah, yeah. I was a weird kid. So my mother tells me. Yeah, I always had this mini orchestra in my head from the time, she says, from the time I was in the crib, because apparently I was singing and banging my head against. She thought there's something wrong with this guy, and I just always heard and saw music, and the challenge for me was to take what I was hearing and learn how to assign it to paper, learn how to read and write. I tried taking a piano lesson when I was 10. My mother got me a piano teacher, and I don't really remember. I just remember him showing me a song. It was Never on Sunday. It was a song from it, and he was playing it, and I'm thinking, God, his time is bad. I didn't know what time or pocket was, but I just remember instinctively knowing that this guy, it just doesn't feel right.
Wow.
And so I started playing it better than he could, without just from hearing it.
Right.
And of course, he told my mother that I was unteachable, and because I basically told him that he didn't have any pocket, and so yeah, I'd go to the library and look at scores and listen to the recordings and look at Beethoven and Mozart and listen and look and with the vision that I had in my head and hearing it, I put it together.
And then, from that going, yeah, I really can't teach this kid piano, to where then you're conducting the London Orchestra. Symphony.
London Symphony. I did a movie called Rustler's Rhapsody in London with the symphony, and it was probably, if not the biggest thrill ever, certainly right up there with one of them. Hearing the weight of just them tuning, them tuning, taking an A from the concertmaster was overpowering, and then actually listening to the music I wrote for that movie being played by 94 players, it was pretty daunting.
Well, and your whole background too, Steve. I mean, being raised on the East Coast and everything. We talked about, graduating high school from Baltimore and then going to LA and being a session musician. And that's where you really started rubbing elbows with a lot of these people that you would start working and writing songs with and for. You feel like that kind of opened the doors for you with, doing the LA move? Yeah,
the LA move was definitely, I was in Atlanta first. I went to the University of Georgia and go Dogs. And, I went to, would have a publisher in Atlanta and started dabbling in doing string arrangements and playing on sessions and doing my demos there. And then it just wasn't enough for me, and I wanted to be in the big leagues, and went to Nashville and just got lucky, being at the right place at the right time, manifest destiny. It all plays in creating a career. And I also wanted to be the shortstop for the New York Yankees, but that didn't work out. So,
but at least part of the dream did.
Right, part of the dream did.
And I mean, we were talking earlier too, to where, now you're doing so much of your arranging and everything, just like, you were working on music this morning before you came in studio, to where, you're using Yamaha gear predominantly, and you're able to dial in your own symphony and strings from your home studio now.
Well, I think that's the advent of technology for composers. Both songwriters and composers, we have such a palette now of toys and Pro Tools and Logic to be able to put together things so quickly.
Right.
My process has never changed from sitting there writing out sketches and scores for orchestration. I still do that, but now I don't have to sit there, play and write. Now I can just play and it automatically shows up on the screen, and so a lot of shortcuts, which is really nice. And of course I do have libraries of real, not synth things, but I use real libraries to that are essentially the real instruments.
Well, and that's how you're able to deliver, the songs and the great songwriting that you continue to do. And I got to bring up also that, we're talking about you not slowing down. You're still writing with a number of up-and-coming artists and everything, but also you're working with, A-listers like Trisha Yearwood.
Yeah, Trisha just recorded 2 of my songs for her new album coming up, and bunch of new artists and established artists. I hate to talk about them until they're out,
right? Because
you never know in this business.
Definitely.
I went one time from having Bette Midler's next single to not even being on the album.
Oh my gosh!
So and it was a song that 8 years later George Strait recorded for Pure Country, and it was "I Cross My Heart."
Right. And weren't you the musical director for both of those Pure Countries? Pure Country.
Well, I wrote all the music. Yeah.
Those were huge.
Yeah. That was those. Well, the first one with George. Second one was fun. It was called Pure Country: The Gift. Didn't do nearly as well because it was a whole new set of character.
Right. But that first one, wow.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, I've got to bring this up too, and I know your book is still available, and there's an incredible voice talent that also cut the audio book.
Yeah.
Oh wait, that was you also, Steve.
I wanted to use an actor. They said, to do it, and the head of the book company said, Steve, you can go in there for a couple hours and just knock it out. And I said, okay, and went in, sat in a chair. With a mic in front of me, reading this book for 9 hours. I thought I was going to pull my hair out because my engineer would stop me after a paragraph and say, now you need to do, now I know what it's like when I ask a singer. No, you need to do that again.
Right. Now you were on the other side of it.
Right, and it was tedious and. But yeah, so the audio version is available. I think
it's great though that it's in your own voice. But don't you think it's a little bit ironic also though that you're doing these shows, and they've been sold out, City Winery everywhere you go, to where you're doing an evening with Steve Dorff, and that's like air to you because you're telling the stories, you're playing the songs, it's in your voice. Whereas the book took you 9 hours, and I'm sure when you get on stage and you're doing the songs and telling the stories, it feels like 5 minutes.
Well, they're abbreviated versions of what's in the book, obviously.
Right.
I can't go into all the detail and can't use some of the words that really express what I was feeling during some of those moments. But it's fun. I never aspired to be an artist. A recording artist. When you hear me sing a couple of my hits, you know why you never heard me on the radio. And so I've been so blessed to have had these incredible artists of this generation or any generation, the greatest voices on the planet.
4 different decades.
Do my songs. Yeah, going on 5. Yeah, I think.
But also, you and I were talking too, Steve. I think the great thing about you doing these shows and why they're sold out every time you do one is because you can hear, and you're a great, keyboardist, pianist, but you can hear the lyrics and you can see where that song came from, just like with George Strait or with Kenny Rogers, with all these songs that you wrote. It's like going, oh, now I get it.
I think people enjoy hearing the organic way of, without all the production.
Right.
They get to hear the song in its rawest form and how it started and how it might have changed by the time they heard it on the radio because I only know how to do it the way I wrote it.
Right.
And I certainly can't sing like Whiney Houston or Barbra Streisand. So they get to hear the song the way it came out of my living room or,
Yeah.
you know, piano.
I think it's incredible. I think, and also I've got to bring this up too, to where you're doing a lot more speaking engagements and everything also, you know, to where you get to talk about the craft of songwriting now with your, you know, with your catalog, with everything you've accomplished, you know, sharing that with audiences and helping other up and coming songwriters.
Yeah, I think that came from, I was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2018 with some of my heroes, John Mellencamp and Kool and the Gang, and it was, again, a pinch me moment.
Right.
But they encouraged me to become the face of my songs because unlike the Ed Sheerans and the Elton Johns and the Billy Joels, I'm this anonymous Oz behind the curtain guy who's written the soundtrack of people's lives, and yet they think when they hear Through the Years, they go, "Oh, I love that Kenny Rogers song," you know, or you know, and so they don't really know, you know, the face
Right.
of the song.
Whereas the people like in Nashville and everything, I mean, certainly we know you.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like we know who you are when you.
Well,
you
it's
know.
a songwriter's town,
It is.
Nashville, and it's wonderful that songwriters get the recognition that's due.
I was thinking though too, Steve. I got to bring this up to where, you know, when you're listening to the radio or you're watching the TV, does it ever just strike you as odd when, you know, your songs are coming through and it's like going,
Oh yeah, no,
I mean, kind of surreal.
No, it is surreal. It's funny because just I think 2 weeks ago I was watching TV late at night, having trouble sleeping, and I was flicking around, and all of a sudden Columbo comes on, and I'm listening to it, and I'm going, God, that sounds familiar. And then I realized I did that one, you know, and because I had done several Columbo movies, and I was listening to it and thinking, okay, I would have done that totally different now. You know, that was terrible. I hated that cue. You know, why? I wish I could have it back and redo it. You know.
But think about, you know, Columbo and like all these, you know, films, TV shows, everything are airing all around the world.
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, all the time.
With your music.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, I've got to ask you this question, not to put you on the spot, but for songwriters out there, you know, who are trying to make it in the industry, if you could give them a piece of advice that has served you well, you know, during your career, what would that be?
Well, I would say two things. Be ready to pick yourself up and dust yourself off from the rejection about 100 times a week, and which still happens, which happened yesterday to me, and then when you're writing songs, write what you know. Don't write about a red elevator that you got into if you never got into that red elevator or that red truck, or write from what you experience. That's served me,
Right.
you know.
Well, it really has. And I think, you know, when you look at, and when you listen to all of your songs too, Steve, over the years, to where it's like, that, you know, you're able to write things very organically, but there's a commonality that we can all relate to in your songs. And you look at, once again, we talked about all the awards, all the songs and everything by all of these huge artists. There's a reason why they come to Steve Dorff for these songs.
Well, I would hope so. But I never think of the artist when I write. In fact, that's a frequently asked question is, you know, did you write that song for so-and-so? And no, I didn't. I mean, Through the Years, which was such a huge hit for Kenny Rogers,
gosh, yes.
was passed on by Barry Manilow and Glenn Campbell.
Wow.
And Barry was the first one I had in mind when, after I had the demo, and we pitched it to Clive Davis, and they passed, and then Glenn heard it and liked it, but passed. And then Lionel Richie heard it, and he was the one who played it for Kenny.
Incredible. These kind of stories. Well, I want to make sure for our viewers too, Steve, you know, for your website, social media, obviously you're going to be doing, you know, more concerts and shows. You got movies coming out. You got a lot of projects, a lot of new music
It's
coming
all
out.
on the website, pretty much.
Okay.
SteveDorff.com, and with, I guess, the 3 W's in front of it. And yeah, that's my website, and the book is available on the website as
Which
well.
you can get your autograph copy on the website. I mean, I know the book is everywhere. I've seen it in bookstores here in Nashville, and it's on Amazon. But to get the autograph copy,
Yeah.
you need to go to your, and once again, if you listen to books, the incredible voiceover talent and narration of Steve Dorff. I think, you know, you're going to have like your own classes, you know, at one of the universities or in your spare time, Steve, you know?
Yeah, no, teaching isn't my thing. I have enough problems learning. I don't.
Self-taught.
Yeah.
And look at where you are now.
Yeah.
It's incredible. And I'll tell you what, you've got the 2 movies out, you've got 2 more Christmas movies coming out, and I'm sure you've already got projects planned for next year as well.
Yeah, we're got a Western, hopefully after this SAG strike ends, that'll go into production early next year.
Wow. I'll tell you what, get your own copy of the book, and also be sure and check out Steve's website, Steve Dorff, for all of the great things going on, whether it's with the TV shows, with the films, so many great things, and go see this guy live as he's touring, and we'll tell you the stories behind the songs and so many incredible artists. Steve, thanks for coming
Eric.
on the show.
This was fun. Thank you.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.